Hi Madeline, just quickly going through labelling sides of a triangle for use in the cosine and sine rule. First of all, we use three letters, A, B and C. We use capital letters for one and lowercase letters for the other. So angles we're going to have capitals and sides we're going to have lowercase, small letters. Now what's important is that you remember and know that the same letter means that you have the opposite side or angle. So we're going to see what this actually means when we come to label a triangle. If I label this angle A, the opposite side is this one here. So that's going to be side A. And that's it. That's all you need to know. So if this is angle B, the opposite side is side B. And if this is angle C, the opposite side is side C. That's how we label the triangles, and that's what you need to remember. So it seems silly to look at how you're labeling sides without doing a couple of questions. Here are a couple of questions. If you really want to pause and give them a go, you can. Otherwise, we're using the sine rule, so I'm going to write down the sine rule. What's important is that if we're finding a missing side using the sine rule, we make the side the thing at the top. The thing at the top is the side, so we're going to use this version of the sine rule to find the missing side. We label up our triangle, starting with the thing we're trying to find. We're going to make that letter A. Almost always that's really useful because it's the first thing you wrote down. That's what we're going to make the subject. And then go through labeling opposite angle A. And then the other side, you're just going to move up through the alphabet, label the side B and the opposite angle B. Now it's just a case of substituting in the numbers for the letters. And this is what we get when we do that. The final step, we are multiplying both sides by the denominator sine 84. And I'll keep it nice and simple. You can just write that in your calculator, press equals, and you should get 34.0 centimetres come out. The other type of question that we can do is finding a missing angle. So this question now has x as a missing angle. We label the thing we're trying to find first with the letter A and deduce that the opposite side is letter A as well. Then we go up through the alphabet to label angle B and opposite side B. Now all of the unknowns in our sine rule can be changed into either letter X or the numbers. This time I start with my angle at the top of my equation. That just makes it easier to rearrange. When we've got this written down, we're trying to solve for X, so we multiply through by 7. So we multiply this fraction, sine 40 over 6, by 7. And that gives you some really horrible number like 0.7499. But rather than doing that, I want us to do, in your calculator, making sine to the minus 1. Now, you'll need to look at your calculator how to get the minus 1 function. If you struggle with that, do get to me on Teams and I'll answer. And then just putting all of that, the calculation from the previous stage in, without actually calculating what it is at all. You can do that. 48.6 is the answer. Okay, so if we've done the sine rule, let's do the cosine rule questions. I'm writing the cosine rule at the top of the page, and there's a couple of questions. Again, if you feel confident, stop the video, have a go, and you can look at the answers. Okay, so we start by labelling X with the letter A. It's a lowercase a because we've got a side this time. Opposite angle, capital A. The other two sides are B and C in either order. It doesn't matter. Then we're substituting in A, B and C into our formula. Here, what's really important is you can see I've calculated 2 times B times C all at once is 120. If you throw all of this into your calculator, you get the number 115.16. That's rounded, by the way. And if we square root, because this gives us x squared, if we square root, we get 10.7 to 1 decimal place. Okay, so finding the side's much more straightforward for the cosine rule than finding missing angle. We're going to write down the cosine rule exactly as we find it to start with for the missing angle. After we've written down a is equal to x and lowercase a is 8, b and c in either order, we substitute all of these letters and numbers into our equation. This time, instead of starting with a letter squared, we've got 8 squared, so we're going to need to rearrange this equation. The way you do that, you have to be really, really careful about, so I want you just paying attention over the next few seconds. I'm going to square each of my numbers really clearly and add them together. So 25 and 49 added together makes 74. I leave the number after the negative sign in place exactly as it is. I then move the 74 over the equal sign by subtracting it, and that leaves me with minus 10, and then I divide by the minus 70 to isolate cos A on its own. Right, I ran out of space a little bit there, so it's a bit squeezed in, but cos A becomes 1 over 7. So I do cos to the minus 1 of 1 over 7, and it gives me 81.8. For me, that last one is the most difficult of the 4 examples that you can do. So do rewind and have a look and get to me on Teams if you don't fully grasp it. So sometimes you'll be asked to just find the angle or side, not being told which rule to use. My advice to you is to label before you decide. So this question, it may not be crystal clear to you, but we're going to just go through labeling the unknown as A or A. Now in this case it's a side, so it's lowercase a. We figure out that 20 is capital A, and the other two sides, well, we'll just move up through the alphabet to B and B because they're opposite as well. So we've got AA and AB and AB. Now, if you're familiar enough with the rules, you just see the sine rule there. And if you're not, you can look at a formula sheet and actually see it. You can see AA and BB. Now the cosine rule, if we write that out, has A and B, but it also has C. And this problem does not involve a third side, so we don't need C. And in fact, we need C and we don't have C. Okay, new question. We're going to do the same thing, labeling the unknown as capital A in this case because it's an angle, the opposite side A, and then B and B for the other angle and the opposite side. So we see this pattern of AB, AB. Opposite sides, those are the things that the sine rule likes. Two pairs of opposite sides. So two sides and both opposite angles. That's what makes you spot a sine rule problem. Okay, when we look at this problem, we're going to approach it in the same way. First of all, x changes to a, lowercase because it's a side. We figure out the opposite angle is capital A. And then 15 and 18, you might get confused here. It doesn't actually matter which you label B and C, because it just means you'll get B or C appearing somewhere else. But we now can see that we have lowercase a, lowercase b, and lowercase c, and capital A. Now all of those appear in the sine rule. So if we plugged all of those numbers in, we would get an equation with one unknown in, and we'd be able to solve it and find out what x is. So this is a cosine rule problem because of the number of sides and angles matching up to the formula that you're using. Okay, again here we're going to label the sides and angles, starting with the unknown, capital A. Opposite side is lowercase a, and 7 and 8, it doesn't matter if we label B and C the other way around. We still have B and C. So we have all three sides in this problem and one angle. And that is what the cosine rule looks like when you write it out. So lowercase a, lowercase b and lowercase c and capital A all involved in a problem means it's a cosine rule problem, and you have to use this formula to solve it. Finally, I've included this problem. We are going to go through capital A for x. Now, the opposite side to x isn't involved, which immediately sets off my alarm bells. So we do opposite angle B, the angle B and opposite side B, and then the final side is C. Now, there isn't a formula that uses those letters, so I just want us to think about this angle here. If we use this angle, if we try and find out the value of this angle, then we are going to be able to find x, because we would then have two angles out of three within a triangle. So if we reframe this problem to find out that right-hand side angle, then we can find x quite quickly after we've done that. So what we do is get rid of all the markings that we've put on there, and you're allowed to do this in an exam. You can just take off markings that the examiner's put on a triangle and establish your own letters. You're allowed to do that. So we're going to make A this new side here, this new angle here rather, and the opposite side A and B, suddenly we see the sine rule. This is a sine rule problem. We're going to find out that angle using the sine rule, add it to 23, take that away from 180, and that will be the value of x. Tricky, huh? So some of these sine rule problems do come where you have to find other angles first, but get used to the ones where you're just finding one angle or one side, and you build up that vision to be able to see how you can do questions like this. Okay, Madeline, good luck with the questions you're revising. I'm really proud of you for revising through half term. And let me know any more problems and I'll do the best I can.